But when it comes down to it, there are a lot of problems, specifically recovery, training, injury risk problems associated with trying to race too often. Episode 937 of Diz Runs Radio is a quick tip episode. Best of Ish edition. Today's quick tip: schedule a workout during a race. So today, a little trip down memory lane, a little best of Ish, which for those that aren't aware, going back into the vault, going back into the archives, what's something that we talked about before that maybe is still relevant today and maybe might be worth a reminder, and I think this one is perfect. This may be the most perfect best of Ish episode ever. I don't know, maybe not. But the idea of scheduling workouts during races, and why is it maybe so timely right now? Well, in case you haven't figured it out yet, races are starting to come back, and races are still looking a little different than they did before the pandemic, but we're starting to get back into at least having options. And if you're not comfortable running races yet, cool. No worries about that. I'm pretty good to go, I think, depending on the size of the race, location, things like that. But obviously, everybody, you got to be comfortable with the idea, maybe have your vaccine already, things like that. But if you're ready to get back to racing, and if you're the type of person who races a lot in a quote-unquote normal year, you might have a log jam this year. And I know this because I coach some of you. There's some folks who had, a 10, 12, 15 races canceled from last year because of the pandemic that were automatically re-enrolled in those races this year. And there are also some of those folks, you know who you are, trying to jump into more races because you love racing. You had a whole year off of racing last year. You want to do all the races this year. You like getting that bling. You like, cementing your half fanatic status or your marathon maniac status. I mean, whatever. It's all good. But when it comes down to it, there are a lot of problems, specifically recovery, training, injury risk problems associated with trying to race too often. Notice I'm not saying running races too often, although you could make an argument there could be some problems there too, but that's another argument for another day. The topic today is the idea of trying to race too many races too often. If you've got halves every weekend, or heaven forbid, maybe not heaven forbid, but if you're one of those crazy folks that likes to do challenge races, cough, Chris Short, cough, the idea of trying to drop the hammer on back-to-back half marathons or in a 5K and in a 10K and a half or something like that, in theory it's doable, but boy, you're running the risk of hurting yourself. Right? And none of us want to come up with an injury, especially coming off a year where there were no races, and now we've got a year where there's a bunch of races that are tentatively going to happen. So that's where, to me, the idea of running the races but scheduling workouts for the races kind of makes sense. And this is something we talked about before. But again, I think it's timely to readdress it. So what does that look like from a more practical level? I'll give you a couple of examples as we go as well. But the practical level is that, like I said, you're probably not going to want to. You might want to. Let me check that. You're probably not. It probably wouldn't be the best choice to go out and just drop the hammer week after week after week on races this year, especially for the longer distance races. All right? So instead, what you might want to do is target one or two or a few races over the course of the coming 6 months, 8 months, 12 months, as these are kind of my goal races. Maybe it's a race that you're targeting as a PR attempt, or the first time you're going to maybe you're going to run your first marathon this year. Whatever it is, doesn't matter. But you pick out your 2 or 3 or 4 races that you're going to race. Those are the races, right? Then you're going to have, some of you might be another couple, 2, 3, 4. Some of you, it might be 10, 15, quote-unquote races that are more or less training runs, that are supported training runs, that you get a little bling at the end of training runs, that you're going to do in support of these goal races. So once you identify the goal races, then it comes down to kind of picking out, all right, what are the other races that I'm doing that are going to build towards these races, And then how am I going to set myself up to actually, not get caught up in the emotion of racing? So kind of what it ends up looking like when it comes to doing a race as a workout is you put some parameters in place. You put some guide rails up, some things that you're going to work on. And it can look a bunch of different ways. It could look like you want to run easy for a while and do a fast finish. So maybe you've done some fast finish long runs in your training before, which, I've scheduled them. I've talked about them before as good workouts. They're hard workouts, but I enjoy them, where you run, maybe 10 miles easy. And obviously this scales up or down, but maybe you do 10 miles at just your normal long run pace, and then you run your last 4 or 5 miles at half marathon pace, or just pushing as hard as you can go, while sustaining for the last 4 or 5 miles. And so it's markedly faster than that first 10 that were easy. But, maybe you set something like that up for an upcoming half marathon, where your goal isn't for that race, isn't to go out and just drop the hammer from the start. It's to go out, cruise for 8 miles, 9 miles, 10 miles, and then hammer the last 5K or the last, 4 miles or whatever it works out to be in for you on that day based on your plan. That helps you to get a good workout in, have hopefully a great day, get outside of the normal humdrum of running your normal workouts in your normal situation, maybe by yourself, maybe with 1 or 2 partners, but it just kind of breaks things up a little bit. All right? Scheduling workouts as part of your races can also help you, just be a little bit more motivated because you have some support, right? You've got all these races this year, potentially, and you want to do a bunch of them. But in between, it's kind of like, I just got to, I'm just going to go out and run for 15 miles this week. Well, having a race there, you can schedule something, you can plan it, but you get that support. You get that little bit of boost that maybe can help you push a little bit for your fast finish. Or, you can do other workouts besides just fast finishes. I know I've interviewed folks, I believe Mary Johnson comes to mind, who was like 600 episodes ago, but she talked about scheduling like 800-meter repeats as part of, I think it was a half marathon, it may have been a 10-mile, it doesn't matter, but as part of a race she was running, because that wasn't her goal race. So you could do something like that. Maybe there's something that you need to work on, or you want to work on at least, that is going to help you for some of your goal races. I didn't clear this with the person in that I'm going to reference, so I'm not going to use any names here. I think I probably could, but I don't want to step on any toes. But an athlete that I coach has struggled a little bit in the past. Something I've struggled with too. Maybe you can relate to this as well, with going out too fast at the start of a race. So something that we focused on for a race that was one of those deferral races, or I don't know if it was a deferral race or on the wait list, and found out kind of last minute that, oh, hey, by the way, you're good for this race this weekend. It was like, oh, all right, well, we got 4 days to prepare for this race. And lo and behold, we had just raced, or this person had just raced like a weekend prior. So, not exactly planning on going out and dropping the hammer for a second time in 2 weeks. So instead, we decided to work on pacing at the start. Don't worry about setting PRs. Don't worry about finish times. All I was focused on as the coach for this particular situation, without trying to give anything away, was the first 5K and the last 5K. We kind of set it up as a very controlled start. Here's the time frame. Here's the average pace we want to maintain for the first 5K. Then you can just cruise for 6 or 7 miles. When you get to mile 10, we want to push a little bit. Nothing crazy, but push a little bit with the goal of running the last 5K faster than the first 5K. Now, if in this situation, if we really executed the first 5K, it shouldn't be a problem. But if we got out a little too fast at the first 5K, now it's going to make it more difficult to run the last 5K faster than the first 5K. So again, all this to say, you can get creative with how you structure the workouts in terms of quote-unquote proper workouts or pacing, things that you're working on. Maybe for a race that you're the type of person that you kind of get caught up in the excitement of a race. And I know a few of these people too. And again, I also may or may not have some troubles with saying, oh, yeah, I'm just going to go out and cruise, and then get kind of, oh, well, hell, like I feel pretty good. Like, well, maybe I'll push it just a little bit. And then you wind up racing a bit harder than planned on. So maybe you experiment with some type of run-walk thing. Maybe that's nothing that you've ever done before. But you say, hey, for this race, I'm going to try something. I'm going to try something new to keep me in check. Every mile, I'm going to walk for a minute. All right? And what that does, it keeps you from worrying about your overall pace because you're going to have that walk thrown in every mile or every half mile or whatever works out for you. But it also breaks up some of that stress of the physical stress of running, even if you're just cruising it at a fairly comfortable pace. Again, if you're prone to getting caught up in the excitement of race day, it's pretty easy to go, I just cruised for the first 6 miles of this 10-miler, but daggum, I feel really good. I wonder what I could do for the last 4 miles. And then all of a sudden it turns into more of a workout than you intended. Because maybe that day you weren't planning a workout, you were just planning it as an easy run. So you put these pre-programmed walk breaks in there to prevent you from getting yourself in trouble. All right? Moral of the story, and this might be the quickest quick tip we've had in a while, and I'm all over the place on my notes for this one, so good luck if you go back to the show notes for today at dizruns.com/937 and try to follow along. We're all over the place, but that's all right. The memes and GIFs are good this week, BT dubs. But the moral of the story is, if you're going to be racing a lot this year, or at least running in a lot of races this year, I would really encourage you to again, set a couple of targets. These are the races that are my goals. These are my goal races. And then get creative with putting guardrails up or setting targets for workouts or things that you want to work on with the rest of your, with the other races that are on your calendar, either because you like racing, you race a bunch every year, or because you got a backlog due to canceled races and deferred races from 2020 into this year, along with the races you already want to run for this year. Running a bunch of races in a year, it's doable. I might even be okay with the argument that it's a great way to spend a spring, summer, fall, winter, even, especially my Texas people, my Florida people, those of us where winter is like ideal race season. But trying to race all the races, that's a high wire act without a net that I would strongly encourage you to reconsider. Schedule workouts, schedule guide rails, race smart this year, and it could be a great year for you. Great year for you. With all the medals, all the bling, all the races, just not all the races that you raced, if that makes sense. So something to keep in mind as we get into get closer and closer into spring and kind of race season, if you will, or at least in a lot of places starting to open up. Be smart with your races, and don't be afraid to schedule a workout as part of a race. It's kind of a little fun little twist, something different for sure. So, what do you think about today? What do you think about today's idea of scheduling races scheduling workouts as part of races? Not even racing some of the races, but just having something else that you want to work on, something you've done before. How'd it go for you? Any thoughts, any feedback, anything, any reasons that I'm an idiot for even suggesting such a topic? Let me know. At DizRuns on Twitter, at DizRuns on Instagram. You can also send an email to dizruns@gmail.com. And of course, you can head over to the show notes for today, which I just mentioned. And again, when I do these best of ish, it's basically copy and pasted from before. My meme and GIF game for this original episode from, I don't know when it was, a while back. Not bad. Not bad. So check them out. Dizruns.com/937 for today's version of it, of the show notes. And of course, there's also that comment section down at the bottom. You can scroll on down past all the shenanigans and leave your thoughts and feedbacks and takeaways. And again, let me know. Have you ever just done a workout during a race instead of actually racing it? How'd it go for you? Was it tough? It can be a little tricky. No doubt about it. But let me know your experience. And don't forget to get entered into the giveaway free custom training plan for you. Or you could gift it to somebody if you wanted to. But we'd love to have the opportunity to help you out, get you back on track, or maybe help you with scheduling some workouts as part of some of the races that you have coming up, leading up to a goal race. We can work all this together if we want to. Dizruns.com/giveaway, or right there at the homepage at dizruns.com. Get yourself entered to win it, and may the odds ever be in your favor. And now with that, let's go ahead and wrap this one up. Thanks, y'all, for listening today. Hope you enjoyed the little trip down memory lane. Maybe it's the first time you heard me talk about this. Maybe you've heard it before if you've been around for a minute. But either way, appreciate your time. Appreciate your attention. If you know somebody who's got a lot of races on their calendar this year or gearing up for a bunch of races this year, go ahead and hit that share button. Let them know that, maybe there's some better options than just dropping the hammer all the time. Maybe help them stay healthy this year and have a great race season. But anyway, any shares, always appreciated. Until next time, y'all, please be well. Take good care. Thanks again for listening. And we'll talk soon, all right? See you.